I just really want to show you how to make this Christmas tree. It's lovely. It's a really super little decoration to put on your tree or any time of the year. Come on, let's face it, you could make a Halloween one, couldn't you? So when we look at it, it's very simply constructed. In other words, we've just got a lovely little triangle there, a little bit of ribbon for the trunk, a little bit of hook ribbon there to hang it on where you ever want to hang it, maybe on a door handle. But what we're doing today is using these fancy stitches that you have in your machine, but you're never too sure what to use them for. And actually, sometimes we need just a little bit of practice using them. So I think this is a great technique. Doesn't that look like baubles? Love that too. Anyway, let's crack on. So you need a piece of fabric for the front, and this is 13 inches by 6 inches. You need a piece for the backing, you need a nice wide piece of ribbon for the trunk, and you need a nice sort of narrow ribbon for the loop to hang it up by. Okay, so we'll put those to one side. We don't need these just yet. So what I've done is I've actually stabilized my fabric only because this is a very, very lightweight slub silk. Absolutely gorgeous, but you may not have to do that. When we've done the drawing on here, you'll need to put some wadding on the back. Okay, so on the back of there, put some 80-20, a nice thin wadding. Don't need anything too thick. So we need a starting line. So I'll do my starting line at this end. Doesn't matter which end you start. And just draw yourself a nice line. I'm really hoping you're going to see this. A really nice line. Okay. Along the bottom here, we're going to measure in 4 inches. Now, of course, you could use your mat to help you. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there are your first markers. And then up here, we're going to draw that other line so we know that that's the end of where we need to mark, measure, make our trees, stitch, you name it. So from there to there, we've got a 4-inch mark. But what I want to do on this side is to do 2 inches, then 4, then 4. So up the top, I'm putting my ruler against the line I've just drawn, and I've got 2 inches there. Again, you could use your mat if you wanted to. So let's get my ruler so it's the right way round. And then 4 inches, and then 4 inches. Okay, good to go. So now, from point to point, we're going to draw our triangles. Now, you're not going to stitch these, you're just drawing them because we need to have some sort of guide of where the trees are going to be, where the lines are going to be for stitching, where you're going to cut, all those things. So let's just get this drawn. And hopefully you'll see I'm doing it fairly dark. Now I'm using heat erasable pen, but you don't have to. You could just use a pencil because you're not going to see these lines at all. Now you will perhaps see the lines going across here now, but of course if you stitch on the line it won't make a jot of difference. So using my mat, there we go, I'm lining that bottom edge up with my grid, top and bottom. So I'm making a nice neat straight edge there, and from there I'm going to draw my straight 1-inch lines going across. Now, I'm not going all the way to the end, there's no need, because these pieces at the end are scrap, which of course you could use for another project if you wish, but you know, I'm not that frugal. They'll just go in the bin. So let's just draw these lines all the way across, and this is really going to help you with your stitching and making sure you stitch straight. Another good reason to do the grid, because you know you will definitely stitch on this line and you will definitely be straight. And sometimes that's a worry, because we like things to look nice when we're finished and not all wonky. So there's our grid made, and you can see now how that's looking. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees, 1-inch marks all the way along, so the tips of our trees will be about the same either side. Matters not. I don't think anybody's going to notice they're out a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the wadding on the back of my piece of fabric, and I'm going to pop it under the machine. Now I must admit I've already done a little bit of that for you already. So if I bring the machine in, I've already put the wadding on and I've already done 1 row stitching. I know it's going to be a little difficult for you to see, but if I bring it up, Oh my gosh, it's absolutely gorgeous. So we're just going to continue like that all the way along. Now look, I've got a little bit of puckering going on here. Now you might want to use your walking foot, perfectly fine. But actual fact, when I go to press this, this will all come out beautifully. So let's go back to our stitches. Let's find another one. Now I'm going to do this super quick because I want this to get this done for you. But you can take your time. Oh, that's such a narrow stitch. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to increase this by maybe even twice. Let's have a look. Bring it down. Ooh, I can see on mine how big that's going to be. Let's just bring it down a little bit more. There we go, that'll do. So like I say, you can use your presser foot. It should have a little mark right in the centre of your foot that you can be guided by, and just follow the line that you've drawn and you'll do the most beautiful straight stitch. Now I'm doing every inch. You might want to do every half inch. You might want to change your colours, so you're using reds and greens. Maybe you could do all this in gold thread. Wouldn't that look awesome? Especially with this gorgeous silk that I'm using. I don't know why I thought that would be brilliant, but I did. So there's my second row. So let's have a look at my stitches again. And the trouble with choosing stitches is you never know which is the best one for you, but you have to just kind of go with it. And oh, that's a lovely cross stitch. Oh, is that going to be too slow to do? Let's choose another one. No idea if that's any good at all. You might find one that's like a bauble, in which case, okay, that's doing little stars. I'll go with that. I won't adjust it. I'll just wait for the machine to do its stuff. I always take this sort of stitching very steady. I don't rush. I let the machine kind of just potter along. It's part of it is the joy of actually seeing the designs come to life as you stitch them. And hey, we might have that extra half an hour that you can do this little project and really enjoy it rather than feeling rushed. I'm really loving what I'm seeing. So like I said, I've chosen just to use red thread. You might want to choose 2 or 3 different shades. What about variegated thread? That would look amazing, wouldn't it? So think about all those threads that you may have in your stash. Dust them off, get them out on your machine. And I'm just enjoying the process. I'm making sure that the middle of my foot is still following that line I drew. I have to say it's looking gorgeous, and we'll have a look at this on the overhead when I'm done. Now I'm not going much further than where I drew that first diagonal line because that's the start of our waist. There's no point wasting thread. So let's have a look at what else I've got in here, because I must have so many different designs. Oh, this is gorgeous. So I haven't got as many as some machines. Truly I haven't, so you might have something that's really super. So I've got a bit of a knot in my thread going on, but I'm going to ignore it. I might just sort of pick that out. So it's doing a sort of, I don't know what it is, looks like a sort of a cross stitch maybe. Oh, it could be like a herringbone, like that sort of stitch. Ooh, really went offline there. So let's just speed up a little bit. And it's amazing actually how some of the stitches are going back on themselves, so you get a really dark red or deeper red. Some of the stitches that just do a single line of thread are a little bit lighter, so interesting to get that different textures. But this is something that you'll enjoy doing. Listen, if you've got just a zigzag stitch on your machine, a straight stitch, use that zigzag. Widen it, narrow it, lengthen it, variegate it if you like, change that stitch as you go along to a different width or a different length. So actually, even with just a simple zigzag, you could create the most amazing designs. And it'll be personal to you. And what about making 5 and then gifting them to a friend in a little box that you might have made as well? That would look amazing. So, just coming to the end now. Better keep an eye on this. One more row to do. Let's see if we can find a different stitch just for that last one. So of course some of these rows of stitching will be at the top end of your tree. The other ones will be at the bottom. So it'll be interesting to see what they look like. I'm really loving what I'm seeing. So let me go back. Let me go back because I have no idea what. Oh, this, I love this one. I don't know the name of it. It's I probably do. Just have to think about it. Anyway, it's gorgeous. It doesn't go the full width of my machine foot, which is interesting because of course you could alter that width so it's wider, and also you can stretch them out, so have a little play with that. And if you do adjust something and you really like it, make a note of it either in the manual or start a little notebook. So whatever stitches you use, whatever fabrics you use, this is going to be a great little project. So we're nearly finishing now. Right, I'm going to speed up a little bit. I don't like to speed up when it's doing decorative stitching, although of course this machine does embroidery and it whizzes. It always worries me. But that's what it's made for. Right, let's just cut those threads. Lovely. So if we look at this, can you see the difference in the types of stitches? So some of these are really dark, some of them are lighter because they're just like, these have gone back on themselves here and here. So you can see the darkness of the red come through, whereas this is just like a single thread. So it looks amazing, doesn't it? I'm really liking what I see. So the next thing we need to do is to actually put the backing on this. So we'll bring in the red, which is just utterly delicious. Flip this over. Looks great on just the cream, doesn't it? I'm going to use my spray. There's plenty of sprays on the market that you can use for this job. And then just lay your backing over the top. There we go. Give it a smooth. And if you wanted to, you could iron that. It seems to push the glue more into the fabric, but I'm happy with just how that looks. So there we go. Just make sure that's all smooth. Bit like when we're making a quilt. Just want to push all that out so it doesn't gather. So I'm just going to cut one just so I can finish stitching it so you can see how it looks. But now you're going to use your ruler and your rotary cutter to actually cut your trees out, and you're cutting through all the layers. Now if I stood up we'd get this first time, but let's do that. There we go. So that's your scrap. That's that little bit there. Goes in my Ava. So then I'm going to cut the first one like I said, and you're just going to continue going along your fabric. So there's my first tree done, and obviously the back's already attached, and there's the rest of it, and of course I can cut into that to make more. So I'll pop that to one side for the moment. So there's my tree. So how do we finish it off? Well, first of all we need to cut the trunk. So let's just cut the trunk. Now because all of this is glued together, I'm just going to lift that up. I'm going to put a little bit more spray on there just so I know the tree is well in place, and just stick that in my layers. Now I want you to notice this. So I've stuck one piece down. This second piece I'm just going to go slightly over the top of it so it sticks down on the glue that I've already put on there. And there's my little trunk. It probably wants to come down a bit more. Oh, it's well stuck now. There we go. Try and get it in the middle. There we go. I think that's better. And just pop that down. And you'll start to see how that looks. And if that's pleasing to you, then leave it where it is. And then we need a nice loop to hang it by. So we're going to pop it in here. Now what you might do is just hold this in place while we machine around this, and you might get to a point where you're going to have to fiddle with it to get it to sit. So I'm going to just put a clip on there just to hold it, and if you wanted to you could stitch this on by hand afterwards, and because we're using a red background with a red loop you'll be fine. So let's bring the machine in. Now ideally you're going to find some sort of blanket stitch, but I'm going to use a zigzag because maybe that's all you've got on your machine. And we're going to zigzag all the way round. So I would start at a straight edge. Just be aware of your tree. We want to catch that, but we don't want to sort of screw it up. So just be careful when you get to the tree. Okay, here we go. So straight over the tree trunk. I could have trimmed my red fabric, to be honest. I was too keen to get it done for you. And then just make sure that your point is left into your... I might have to do that again. I'm gonna make this wider. Let's put it up to 4.5 because you really can't see it very well. That's a bit better. So up the side of my tree, let me just check. Yes, I'm much happier with that. So I'm just coming up to the loop. So I'm just going to kind of hold it in place. And I wouldn't try going right up to the point. I think that would be almost impossible. So just go as far as you dare and then bring it round. Now also make sure your needle is on the far left hand side for when you come back. That way it will catch all your layers really neatly. So just a zigzag, but you could use you know, a buttonhole stitch, blanket stitch. I always call it buttonhole stitch. It goes back to my youth. Oh, there's Millie the dog. So I'm gonna zigzag that bottom edge again because I really wasn't happy with how that looked. I could do better. So I'm gonna go over it again. I don't think my stitch was wide enough. So good to practice first. Oh, that's so much better. Let's cut the threads. I'm really loving what I'm looking at. I hope you do too. So there we are. Oh, when it says cut the thread machine, you're supposed to cut the thread. Right, there we go. That's the tree done. I know you can't see it beautifully. I'm going to get somebody to zoom in. But if we have a look on the overhead here, now doesn't that look absolutely gorgeous? Now that's the original one that I made. So you can see we've got greens and reds going on, a green tree trunk, a red loop. I'm using a blanket stitch all the way around from my machine, but you could hand stitch that. Now I think that looks absolutely glorious. And I love the way the slub silk has actually made it a little bit sort of more textural, if you like. So that's my little Christmas tree. There we go. It's all ready to hang on my tree. It could actually be for autumn and make it in pumpkin colours, harvest colours, whatever you like. It could be bunting. Doesn't have to be a tree. So there we are. I hope you like it and I hope you make loads. Bye.